Welcome to the deep dive. If you're here, you're looking to get past the surface level, and today we're doing just that.
We are. We've got some excerpts here from a piece called The Unsearchable Riches of Christ for All Peoples.
Focusing specifically on Ephesians chapter 3, verses 1 to 13.
Right. And our mission really is to unpack the central purpose of God's mission as laid out here. What's the core idea and, well, why does it matter to us?
Okay, let's jump in. The source starts with this really massive perspective, Ephesians 3:9. It says the goal is so that through the church, the manifold wisdom of God might now be made known.
To the rulers and authorities in the heavenly places.
That's huge. It's saying the ultimate point of history of missions is showing off God's wisdom.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's quite something. The ultimate aim isn't just salvation, though that's critical, obviously.
Right.
But the grand finale, you could say, is this cosmic display of God's, well, the text calls it wisdom, his intricate intelligence, his design.
It's like he's demonstrating not just raw power, but this incredible complex thought process behind everything.
Precisely. It suggests a God who appreciates, maybe even delights in, complexity and beauty, not just, straightforward power plays. It makes you look for deeper meanings.
And the source really digs into that word manifold. Is it palupokilos?
Palupoikilos, yeah. It's a fascinating Greek word.
Hey, that means?
The source explains it as like wrought in various colors. Think diversified, intricate, complex.
Tapestry. Or a really detailed painting.
Exactly. Not just one block of color, but layers and shades and intricate patterns. It's a wisdom with depth revealed in countless ways.
Okay, and the audience for this wisdom display, isn't just us. It's these rulers and authorities in the heavenly places. Who are we talking about here? Angels?
That's the common understanding, yes. Both good angels and fallen ones, the rebellious powers.
And why show them?
Well, the idea is that the entire created order, visible and invisible, needs to see God's nature demonstrated. And the way he does that is through his actions in history.
Specifically through the church, it seems.
Yes, through the story of redemption, culminating in the church. That story becomes the lesson, demonstrating God's genius.
The source brings up the cross here, which is such a powerful point. These dark forces, these rulers, they thought they'd scored a victory, right?
They absolutely did. From their perspective, they'd won.
But then the resurrection happens.
And it flips the script entirely. It shows God's wisdom was operating on a plane they couldn't even comprehend. His seeming defeat was actually the key move.
So even in what looks like total darkness or failure,
there's often a deeper strategic wisdom unfolding. Christ's death, looking like a disaster, was the very tool God used to break evil's power and save us. A setback turned into the ultimate win.
Okay, so the big picture goal is displaying this incredible multicolored wisdom, and the text says it happens through the church.
Right.
So the church isn't just like a club for saved people. It's the actual instrument for this cosmic demonstration.
That's the connection. This diverse group, people from literally everywhere, brought together, that is the living proof of God's wisdom.
Its existence itself is the argument.
Exactly. This unity across all the old, divides, cultural, ethnic, you name it. It showcases God's power to reconcile and create something complex and beautiful. And that ties into what the passage calls the mystery.
Ah, yes, the mystery hidden for ages. Verse 6, this is about the Gentiles, right?
It is. It says the mystery is that the Gentiles are fellow heirs, members of the same body, and partakers of the promise in Christ Jesus through the gospel.
That must have been absolutely earth-shattering for people at the time.
Oh, completely. For centuries, the understanding was pretty focused on God's covenant with Israel.
So this wasn't just letting Gentiles observe, it was full membership.
Full membership, equal partners, fellow heirs, sharing the entire inheritance. Not an add-on, but part of the plan all along, even if it was hidden.
Hidden how? Were there hints before?
The source suggests so. Yeah, that the Old Testament, even while focusing on Israel, contained the seeds of this wider plan. Paul's image of grafting in Romans.
Right, like adding new branches to the tree.
Yes, but it's more radical than just adding. It's about showing the original root system was always intended to support this much larger, diverse tree. It's intricate.
And it's interesting, the source notes that Romans 11.33 also erupts in praise about God's unsearchable wisdom right when discussing this inclusion of Gentiles.
Exactly. It's the same theme, echoing God's amazing, complex wisdom seen in bringing everyone together in Christ.
Okay, so this diverse church is the instrument.
And it's gathered through a specific method.
Which is?
Preaching. sharing the message. Specifically, verse 8 says, preaching the unsearchable riches of Christ to the nations.
The unsearchable riches, what does that actually mean in practice? What's being offered?
Well, think about the contrast the source draws from Ephesians 2. Before Christ, Gentiles were described as
Separated, alienated strangers, no hope without God. It sounds incredibly bleak.
it was a state of profound separation. But the gospel message changes everything. It proclaims, as chapter 2, verse 19 says, you are no longer strangers and aliens.
But you are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God. That's a total reversal.
Total reversal.
Yeah.
So the riches include belonging, being part of the covenant family, inheriting all the promises God ever made. They all find their yes in Christ.
And unsearchable implies there's no end to it. We'll never exhaust these riches.
That's the idea. Ephesians 2.7 talks about the immeasurable riches of his grace shown to for ages to come. It's boundless. This message isn't just theory. It's a life-changing invitation to belong and inherit something beyond comprehension.
So we have the goal, displaying wisdom, the instrument, the global church, the method, preaching these riches. What about the people doing the preaching, the agents?
Yes. And here the source brings it right down to earth. It highlights that this grand mission is carried out by, well, ordinary people, even messy people, as the source puts it.
And it points to Paul himself.
Yeah. In verse 8, where he talks about preaching these riches, he calls himself the very least of all the saints.
Which is stunning coming from Paul. Why would he say that?
The source suggests two things. One, his personal history. He never forgot he persecuted the church.
That must have weighed on him.
Likely. But second, it's incredibly encouraging for everyone else. If God can use Paul with that background,
then he can use anybody. It removes any excuses about not being good enough or qualified enough.
Exactly. It levels the playing field entirely. It shows God deliberately chooses the unlikely, the weak by worldly standards, to show his strength and wisdom. It's not about us. It's about his grace working through us.
I like how the source describes that every bright stroke of triumph and every dark stroke of suffering matters in God's big picture.
It's a beautiful image, isn't it? Like we're all contributing our little brushstrokes, maybe some bright, some dark, to this enormous cosmic painting of God's wisdom.
Nothing is wasted. Our joys, our struggles, the successes, the failures, they all somehow fit into his design.
That seems to be the implication. No small parts, no insignificant contributions. Everything can be used to display his glory and advance his purpose.
Okay, let's recap the flow then. We started way out there with the ultimate goal. God displaying his multifaceted wisdom
to the entire created order, the heavenly powers included.
And the way he does this is through the church, this incredible global community gathered from all nations.
Which happens because the message of Christ's unsearchable riches is preached.
And the ones doing the preaching. Yeah. Just ordinary people like Paul saw himself, empowered by God's grace.
That's the chain. And the takeaway is that history, missions, our own lives, they aren't random. They're part of this intentional unfolding revelation of God's incredibly complex and beautiful wisdom.
It really does change how you might see things, doesn't it? So thinking about us, the listeners, as these potentially ordinary and messy instruments, here's something to chew on. If every little bit matters, every brushstroke contributes. How might your life, your actions, even the seemingly small stuff, be adding a unique stroke to that vast, universe-sized canvas of God's wisdom? Something to think about.